Hello, Namaskar. This is Firstpost and you're watching Vantage with me, Palki Sharma. We've been telling you about the Red Sea crisis. All the fighting has disrupted shipping through the Suez Canal. In another part of the world, the Panama Canal is in crisis thanks to global warming and a drought. So shipping has been hit there too, and all of this will hurt you. At this rate, prices of commodities will rise and inflation will increase. We bring you the numbers and the projections. In the Iran-Pakistan conflict, no fresh fighting, but tensions remain, along with the question, why did Iran strike at Pakistan? What is the regime trying to say and do? We'll discuss this. Meanwhile, Pakistan has trouble on another front. They're at loggerheads with the Taliban and have closed a key border crossing. The ministers of India and the Maldives met in Africa as Muizu pushes his India out agenda. What are New Delhi's options? A look at the situation in Manipur and what's causing the latest flare-up. Why Sweden is preparing for war. Why a man in Thailand has been given 50 years in jail over his Facebook posts on the king. Why India has come up with new rules for coaching centers and what do they say? Why an emergency has been imposed in Papua New Guinea and how a cabin crew in Japan Airlines became the company's first woman president. We'll discuss her story and more. The headlines first. North Korea tests an underwater nuclear weapons system. Pyongyang says it's in response to naval drills by the US, South Korea and Japan. Last week, Kim Jong-un called South Korea his quote-unquote principal enemy. Ties between the two Koreas have long been tense, but there's been a sharp deterioration in recent months. Unrest continues in Comoros. At least one person is dead in the violent protests. Night curfew imposed in the island nation in the Indian Ocean. The protests erupted after the president won a fourth term in elections held last week. Indian Prime Minister Modi inaugurates a Boeing campus in Bengaluru. It's Boeing's largest facility outside the US. This is a 43-acre state-of-the-art campus built at a cost of around $200 million. Italy's Supreme Court rules that the fascist salute is a crime, but only under certain circumstances. Days ago, hundreds were seen saluting at the former headquarters of a political party formed by dictator Mussolini's supporters. Jair Bolsonaro's COVID vaccination certificate was forged. That's the finding of an investigation involving the former Brazilian president. During his tenure, Bolsonaro often criticized the vaccines. COVID has claimed more than 700,000 lives in Brazil so far. And Greek parliament to vote on same-sex marriage and adoption in February. The existing rules do not allow same-sex couples the right to surrogacy. The issue is a priority for the leader of the main opposition. Stefanos Kassilakis and his American husband want to become parents through surrogacy. A new crisis is brewing and it impacts you directly. The cost of your groceries will go up, the price of fuel will go up. If you're in the manufacturing business, supplies of your raw materials could get delayed. If you're waiting for that special parcel from overseas, you might have to wait longer. Do you know why? Because global shipping lanes are in crisis. International trade has been disrupted. Most of the goods that we use all over the world are transported through ships. And those ships are struggling to reach their destinations. Why? Because their routes are fraught with challenges. We're talking about the world's busiest shipping lanes, the Suez Canal and the Panama Canal. Both are in disarray. The Suez Canal is caught in a conflict zone. The Houthis are attacking ships in the Red Sea, so they've had to divert. Trade volumes through the Suez Canal are down. They've fallen by 40%, 40. What about the Panama Canal? It faces a different problem, climate change. The canal is drying up, there is a drought, and that has led to traffic jams. So fewer ships are passing through Panama. And the result is this. We have two major choke points. The Suez Canal handles 12% of global trade, the Panama Canal another 5%. Now the movement of these goods stands disrupted. And these shipping lanes are the lifeline of global trade. It is thanks to them that supermarket shelves get stocked and parcels reach your home. More than 80% of international trade relies on working sea routes, so a disruption affects everyone, including you and me. Let's look at some goods that are shipped around the world. Electronics are a major export. And who's the biggest maker of electronics in the world? China. It's a major hub. And who are the biggest importers? The United States and Europe. How do they get their electronics? Through the Suez Canal. So what happens when there is a disruption? When ships carrying electronics from China cannot reach America and Europe, there will be shortages, and that could lead to higher prices. And which other goods could be impacted? Clothing and footwear from South Asian countries like Vietnam and Bangladesh, spices and coffee from Southeast Asia, food items like bananas and avocados from Latin America, and dairy products from Australia and New Zealand. All these goods depend on steady shipping lanes. What happens when supplies are disrupted? The same outcome: more shortages, higher prices, eventually more inflation. And we've seen all of this in recent history. In 2021, the Suez Canal was closed for 6 days. A container vessel had got stuck then. Daily trade came to a halt. Trade worth $10 billion every day halted. And this happened when the pandemic was at its peak, so the disruption led to more supply bottlenecks. It contributed to higher inflation. Now, what is the connection between inflation and shipping? Let me explain that. When shipping routes are disrupted, exporters look for alternatives, which usually means taking longer routes or more expensive ones. All of this adds to the cost of export. We've already seen this happen with the Red Sea crisis. The drought in Panama has had a similar effect. Experts are already worried. They say if the Panama Canal is not fixed, inflation in the US would go up. One report says if shipping costs rise by 20%, inflation goes up by 0.15%. And it won't be just the US. India is not insulated from all of this. For several key commodities, India depends on exports. Oil is the biggest one. And how are oil prices doing? They're going up. Brent crude has risen by 1% this week. In the last financial year, about 65% of India's oil imports came from the Suez Canal. They're worth $105 billion. So oil is a clear vulnerability. But do you know what else could be hit? Textiles, chemicals, metals, pharmaceuticals, all of these could get costlier. So far, it has not happened. But the longer these disruptions drag on, the greater will be the risk for India. It's not just the Red Sea, though. There is trouble elsewhere, too, at the border between Iran and Pakistan. On Tuesday, Iran fired missiles into Pakistan. 48 hours later, Islamabad hit back. The question is, why now? Both sides claim to have hit terrorist camps. They said, no more escalation. So why attack at all? Each side has its own interpretation. The US seems very happy with it, though. Joe Biden says, it's because no one likes Iran.
You can see Iran is not particularly well liked in the region. Yeah, and where that goes, we're working on now. I don't know where that goes.
Others are worried. China, Russia and Turkey have urged restraint. The European Union also wants a de-escalation. Meanwhile, Pakistan is in a huddle. Their top military and civilian leaders met today. They reviewed Pakistan's security. Iran was busy with a military drill. They practiced shooting down missiles with drones. So clearly, Pakistan is on their mind. But the question is, what happens next? To understand that, we must understand the why. Why did Iran attack in the first place? Well, the official version is this. The militants they struck are linked to Islamic State, and Islamic State attacked Iran earlier this month. Nearly 100 Iranians were killed in that attack. So Tehran says this strike was an anti-terror operation. But not everyone is convinced. Along with Pakistan, Iran also struck Iraq and Syria. Those attacks were not surprising. Neither country has a capable military. They also host Iranian proxy groups, so the risk is relatively low. But attacking Pakistan is a whole different ballgame. It's a nuclear power. It's also a much bigger military. So why did Tehran do it? Well, the logical answer is this: to send a message, to show the world that Iran is strong and fearless, in which case Pakistan made sense, because you cannot strike the Israelis. You cannot hit US assets. You also cannot target Arab nations. The stakes would have been too high. So who's left? Pakistan. It guarantees a strong message without the risk of escalation. Now we come to the timing. Why now? The immediate trigger may have been the Islamic State attack earlier this month. Like I said, almost 100 people were killed. It was the biggest terror attack on Iran since 1979, since the revolution. It also happened on the 3rd of January, the death anniversary of an Iranian hero, Qasem Soleimani. So Iran had to show strength. It couldn't just condemn and forget. But that's not the only reason, perhaps. Iran's outburst has been building up for a while. I'll give you 3 reasons why. Number 1 is domestic trouble. In late 2022, massive protests broke out in Iran. The trigger was a custody death. A young woman was arrested for not wearing the hijab. Her name was Masha Amini. When she died in police custody, Iran erupted. Thousands of people took to the streets. They even vandalized posters of the Ayatollah, their supreme leader. Many called it the biggest unrest since 1979. Of course, Tehran cracked down. Dozens of protesters were killed by security forces. Hundreds more were arrested. In the end, the regime won. But the people showed a lot of spirit. Reason number 2 is the economy. Back in 2019, the US imposed sanctions on Iran. So the oil trade has slowed down. Inflation was almost 60% last year. It was the highest level since the pandemic. So something had to be done. Something to show that the regime is still strong. And finally, reason number 3, to showcase its regional superiority. Look at what happened after the Hamas attack on Israel. The Hezbollah fired rockets at Israel. The Houthis attacked ships in the Red Sea. But Iran was nowhere to be seen, nowhere in the picture. You could say that these are all Iranian proxy groups, but officially, Tehran denies any links to them, meaning they cannot take credit for it. Same applies to long-term concerns. Arab-Israel normalization has gathered momentum. Saudi Arabia is still open to it. So Iran is being pushed into a corner. It may have allies like Russia and China, but those are far-off powers. In West Asia, Iran was increasingly alone. Is that why Tehran went on an attacking spree, to send a warning to its rivals? It's impossible to say for sure. Chances are it's a combination of all these factors. But the question is Iran done? Does the regime feel that its point has been made? If yes, then de-escalation will follow. If not, all bets are off. Either way, Iran is better placed than Pakistan, an army with a country with a big military budget, but clearly incapable of protecting itself. And I'll tell you why I say this. Let me show you a list. Iran, the United States, and India, all 3 countries have conducted targeted operations in Pakistan, on Pakistani territory. And it's rare for these 3 nations to be in the same club. But somehow, Pakistan has achieved this feat. And now a 4th party is eager to join this list of opponents, the Taliban, the rulers of Afghanistan, once Pakistan's prodigy and strategic pawn, now their adversary. Pakistan and the Taliban have been at odds of late. The latest flashpoint is Torkham. It's an important border checkpoint, the Torkham border crossing. In the past year, it has been closed a number of times. Last weekend, Pakistan did it again. They closed it, closed the gates of Torkham for Afghanistan. There's a long queue of trucks on both sides of the checkpoint. The drivers were taken by surprise. They're being asked to show their passports and visas to enter Pakistan, and they're not used to it. They're not used or prepared for such security and scrutiny. Usually, they just pass the checkpoint without any papers or documents. There is no free trade regime per se, but this is how it works. It has worked for all these years. In the past, Pakistan has not implemented border checks. Now they're doing it. And the reason is not clear. But this has been going on for months, possibly because of the TTP, the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, also known as the Pakistani Taliban. It's a terrorist organization and a close ally of the Taliban in Kabul. After they returned to power, the Taliban protected the TTP. Kabul protected the TTP. So Afghanistan is now a safe haven for them and a launch pad to strike Pakistan. The TTP has inflicted some serious damage. Since August 2021, after the return of the Taliban, more than 2,800 Pakistanis have been killed in TTP attacks. In September last year, they launched a more ambitious offensive, an incursion into Pakistan. They attacked Chitral, a district on the Pakistan-Afghanistan border. Reports say the TTP struck several villages. It was an attempt to grab land. The Pakistani forces were mobilized and they pushed TTP terrorists back into Afghanistan, but the incursion was a signal. The TTP clearly wants a foothold inside Pakistan, and Islamabad responded with a heavy hand again. It decided to expel Afghan refugees, 1.7 million of them, 1.7 million. They lived in Pakistan and they were asked to leave. The Taliban did not like it, the Taliban in Kabul. They started issuing aggressive statements. And look at the choice of words. The Taliban's Prime Minister said, and I'm quoting, Pakistan should adhere to Islamic principles. That message was addressed to both the government and the military of Pakistan. Another leader has issued threats. That's the Taliban's defense minister. He said, Pakistan should be mindful of consequences. But the harshest criticism came from this man, Sirajuddin Haqqani, the Taliban's interior minister, an old ally of Pakistan. He spoke about these refugee expulsions and declared them un-Islamic. But Islamabad was unmoved. It kept intensifying the crackdown by cutting off access to the border. In a tit-for-tat move, the Taliban are enforcing border checks on their side. They're stopping Pakistani trucks and asking drivers to show their passports and visas. And on some level, it's amusing to see this. Two sides that have never respected the law or the territorial integrity of neighbors indulging in visa checks. But in all seriousness, this face-off is escalating. Pakistan's relationship with the Taliban is deteriorating. It is now at odds with all its neighbors. And whichever way you look at it, it's not good news for the region. And staying with neighbor troubles, let's focus on India and the Maldives. It's been a rough couple of weeks. Indian social media wants to boycott the Maldives. Maldivian social media wants to cancel India. There's a lot of noise and outrage. But amid this, an important meeting has happened. India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar has met the Maldivian Foreign Minister. His name is Musa Zamir. Both leaders are in Uganda. They're attending the 19th NAM Summit. NAM stands for Non-Aligned Movement. So Jaishankar and Zamir met on the sidelines. And what did they discuss? Well, that depends on who you ask. Jaishankar's statement does not mention very much. It just says bilateral issues were discussed frankly, which is short and vague. But the Maldivian minister said a lot more. Listen to this, and I'm quoting. We exchanged views on the ongoing high-level discussions on the withdrawal of Indian military personnel, as well as expediting the completion of ongoing development projects in the Maldives. Some context now. India has less than 100 soldiers in the Maldives. Their job is to fly and maintain aircraft. But the new president does not like it. That's Mohammad Muizzu. He campaigned on the plank of India out, meaning he wants Indian soldiers to leave the country. This month, he gave a deadline to New Delhi. March 15, that's the deadline. By then, he wants Indian troops to leave. Now, the date is political. The Maldives is holding parliamentary elections on the 17th of March. It's a crucial test for President Muizzu. Right now, his party does not have majority in parliament. He also lost a key mayoral seat in Malé. Hence the deadline. But where does that leave India? Listen to what the foreign ministry is saying.
Both sides held discussions on finding mutually workable solution to enable continued operation of Indian aviation platforms that provide humanitarian and medvac services to the people of Maldives. The next meeting is to be held in India to take discussion forward.
Again, vague. New Delhi hasn't mentioned the deadline yet. They say talks are underway. But the question is, what options does India have? On paper, very few. The Maldives is a sovereign country. Its president is asking you to pull out your soldiers. You can't just ignore that, because soon more people will start talking about it. Other countries will chime in. The likes of China could internationalize it. And that's not a good look. So what can India do? The first priority is to keep the talks low-key, to not draw attention to it. That much is clear from official Indian statements. None of them mentions the issue of soldiers. But New Delhi will have to convince the Maldives to do the same, to handle things privately. Whether they agree or not is a different question altogether. Male has already revealed the deadline, so chances are they're running out of patience. Which brings us to the next option. India can persuade Male to keep the soldiers. Can they do it? Well, there is leverage. India makes up a big chunk of Maldivian tourism and investments. In fact, Indian grants make up 1.5% of their GDP. New Delhi is building airports and developing islands in the country. Can or will India leverage that? New Delhi says it is committed to those projects.
On our part, we remain committed to our projects to take them forward. We have been an important development partner of Maldives. We remain committed to doing all things that we can do as a development partner of Maldives in keeping with their priorities.
Frankly, it's a long stretch. Muizu came to power by tapping into anti-India sentiments. His biggest promise was India out, so he cannot just abandon it. If he does, it would be political suicide, not to mention really embarrassing. Which brings us to the worst case scenario, an actual withdrawal of Indian soldiers. We cannot rule it out. In the end, it will have to be a strategic call, and I'll tell you why. India's influence in the Maldives is not because of military presence. It's the other way around. The soldiers are the result of India's influence. Just think about it. You cannot station troops on enemy soil. You can only send them to allies, which means the reverse is also true. Simply having soldiers in Mali will not give India influence. In fact, it can be counterproductive. That doesn't mean India should just pack up and leave. It means India should think long term. What will preserve or salvage ties in the long run? Staying or leaving? I know it's easier said than done. We are heading into election season in both countries. There will be focus on foreign policy. But let's hope common sense prevails, especially in the Maldives, because the soldiers may be a political point for Muizu, but their presence represents a lot more. It stands for decades of assistance, cooperation, and friendship. Maybe Muizu will manage to get the soldiers out, but at what cost is the question. India also faces a domestic challenge, the unrest in Manipur. Things had stabilized in the last couple of months, but this week they erupted. The first incident was reported on Wednesday in the Moreh district. It's located very close to the Myanmar border. On Wednesday, a firefight broke out. Kuki militants shot at Indian security personnel. 2 of them were killed. At least 3 others were injured. Officials say fighters from Myanmar could have been involved. The second incident was also in Moreh. This happened on Thursday. There was a gunfight between unknown groups. In the end, 5 people were killed. All 5 belong to the Meitei community. Now, to give you some context, the ethnic violence broke out in May last year. 2 communities are fighting each other, the majority Meiteis who live in the valley and the minority Kukis who live in the hills. This particular area, Moreh, is mixed, meaning both communities live here. So put together, 7 people have lost their lives, 2 security personnel and 5 civilians. But what was the trigger? A couple of arrests made on Monday. 2 people were picked up in connection with a murder from last year, the murder of a Meitei police officer. But the locals protested. They wanted the cops to release the 2 men. And that's when tensions erupted. First, a curfew was imposed, and now 7 people have been killed. What is the state government doing? They'd asked for air assets from New Delhi, so the centre has sent a helicopter. It's also deploying additional soldiers. Internet has also been snapped in some parts of the state. Of course, these are all temporary measures. What about the peace process? Last year, a special committee was formed. The idea was to find lasting peace. It had members from multiple ethnicities, political parties, and civil society. No progress, though. That committee is yet to meet. Meanwhile, soldiers continue to pour in. By July last year, Manipur had 40,000 central personnel. Imagine that, 40,000 soldiers in a state of 3.5 million people. At first it worked. The violence slowly died down. Reports of attacks became rare. But as this week showed, that's not enough. Lack of violence under the shadow of the gun is not peace. For peace, you need dialogue. I'm afraid that is missing in Manipur. Locals say trust issues remain. Kukis and Meiteis are suspicious of each other. Some have accused the state government of bias. As a result, the peace process is stalled. And across the border, there is a new threat. In Myanmar, a civil war is underway there. Ethnic armies have ganged up against the ruling junta in Myanmar. This week, they had a big success. They captured a key border town. It's called Paletwa in the Chin state. It's an important stop on the route to India. So the violence is slowly spilling over. Some 6,000 refugees from Myanmar are living in Manipur as we speak. They fled the war to India. But what if militants also cross over? The army chief says it's already happening.
Because of the situation across the Indo-Myanmar border, you also have some of the insurgent groups who are feeling the pressure and who have now attempted to come onto our side of the border in the state of Manipur.
So time is of the essence. The war in Myanmar could spiral out of control and more refugees could come, which is why Manipur needs an urgent solution. Maybe this latest violence was an aberration. Maybe it won't escalate or spread. But that's no reason to breathe easy. Only a peace process can end Manipur's suffering. Guns and soldiers can only do so much. Sweden did not fight the world wars. It declared neutrality. It hasn't fought a war in 200 years. But is Sweden going to war now? The answer is yes, if you believe the country's top defense officials. They have issued a warning that war could come to Sweden and that the residents must be prepared. The announcement has left citizens spooked. They're overwhelming hotlines, panic buying food, looking up bomb shelters and slamming the government. So is Sweden really going to war, or is this just fear-mongering? And how will a country that hasn't seen conflict in 2 centuries deal with it? Our next report tells you.
On January 8th, Sweden's top defense official had an ominous warning. He said there could be war in Sweden. Carlos Gobolen's statement left the audience stunned. A new warning came just days later. It was from Sweden's military chief, a man named Mikael Biden. He says all Swedes must be mentally prepared for it. In 2022, war came to the borders of Europe. Russia invaded Ukraine. 695 days later, the conflict brews on. It left the Nordic nations spooked, given their close proximity to Russia. So they opted to join the military alliance NATO. Finland became a member last year. Sweden could this year, and it hoped that would be enough. After all, Sweden hasn't been militarily aligned for the last 200 years. So it was a tough choice, but a necessary one for the country. But its NATO bid is stuck. It hasn't been approved yet. Sweden needs a green light both from Turkey and Hungary, so it could take some time. But the warning from the defense officials has left the country spooked. There's panic buying and frightened children, and a fierce debate over fear-mongering. Helplines in the country are overwhelmed. They have children calling and asking the same question. Will we be going to war soon? Searches for bomb shelters are up by 3,500%. Citizens are also downloading this booklet. It's called If Crisis or War Comes. It was issued during World War II. It was reissued when Russia invaded Crimea. And now citizens suddenly want it. Downloads are up by 900%. The country is also restarting its compulsory civic duty. It's a form of national service. It was abandoned after the Cold War, but now it's back. Citizens will be trained in emergency services and electricity provision. Plus, the military has changed. Not everyone is required to join the army, but a small proportion of the population will be called every year, around 100,000 of them. Does that mean Sweden is really going to war? Well, since the Ukraine war, the situation has been tense. The NATO bid made it even more volatile. Last year, Sweden arrested several people. They were accused of spying for Russia. The country has also witnessed a surge in cyber attacks and GPS jamming incidents over the Baltic Sea. Moscow has also carried out a military exercise in the area. For a country that has not gone to war since the Napoleon era, all of these are worrying signs. But many believe it's just fear-mongering, both by the government and the army. The government has been accused of drumming up support. Meanwhile, the army have been accused of trying to raise their annual budget. Of course, war is always a possibility, especially in a volatile region. But Russia has denied it has any such intentions. Moscow says Sweden just likes dreaming about war. So the prospects of any conflict are far-fetched. Even if it does break out, Finland will be first in the line of fire. So for now, nothing suggests that war is on Sweden's doorstep.
Now let's turn our attention to Thailand, where a man has been sentenced to 50 years in jail. 50 years, 50. His name is Mongkol Thirakot. He's 30 years old and he'll be in prison till he's 80. What did he do to deserve this? This record-breaking sentence. It wasn't murder or terrorism. He's been jailed for his Facebook posts, 27 of them. They were critical of Thailand's monarchy, of this man, King Vajiralongkorn, who also goes by the regnal name Rama X. But don't let the name fool you. The Thai monarch is nothing like the Hindu deity Ram. He's pretty much the exact opposite. But in Thailand, he's still revered because that's the law. Thailand's lèse majesté law, often known by its legal identification, Section 112. Here's what it says. Whoever defames, insults or threatens the king, the queen, the heir apparent or the regent shall be punished with imprisonment of 3 to 15 years. That's the law says. And what is the legal definition of insult or defamation in this particular case? Well, that's up to the prosecutors, which means almost no one can escape if charged under this law. And it has been abused over the years. This is the latest example, the unfortunate man who got 50 years in jail. He put up posts. They were critical of the monarchy. Many young Thai people have urged reform, and they've been accused of insulting the institution of monarchy. But it doesn't end there. If you like one of these social media posts, you too could go to prison. You might think, fine, no liking posts about royal reform. And that's not so bad. But what about liking pictures of other things? Like the Thai king himself in a crop top. Yes, the king of Thailand was once known for roaming in decidedly non-regal attire. And that wasn't too long ago either. This video is from 2017 when the king was 64 years old. There are numerous pictures of him online in these outfits, and Thailand's military is not pleased with them. It's a pro-monarchy military, so they charge people for liking these photos under Section 112, the law I told you about. If you think that's absurd, wait till you hear this, the extent of their online censorship. In 2020, they tried to ban pornographic websites in the country. They say it was to preserve morality, but it just so happened that the Thai king was featured in videos on those sites. This is the king that Thailand says it's illegal to make fun of. The man has a playboy reputation. He once officially raised a mistress to the position of royal concubine. In a country where polygamy was banned decades ago, he has also been married 4 times, sometimes to former mistresses, with whom he already had multiple children. But people are jailed for insulting or defaming him in 2024, and that too for 50 years. This is the highest sentence ever given out, and this is the reduced sentence. Cut short because the man pleaded guilty. That's what a judge said. The sentence was lowered because the man pleaded guilty. Otherwise, he may have got 75 years or more, which is ridiculous. All for insulting a 71-year-old absentee authoritarian playboy. The Thai monarch spends most of his time in Germany, in the region of Bavaria. He has set up a base in the Alps and reportedly conducts his business from there, and this business is vast. Aside from meddling in Thai politics, he also remotely manages a lot of wealth. The king brought Thailand's royal estates under his direct control in 2018. They were earlier considered public property, in name at least. But now the entire $43 billion estate is his. And it doesn't end there. The monarch also has a private army. At least 2 elite Bangkok-based units report directly to him. This makes him one of the richest and most powerful monarchs in modern history, despite the fact that Thailand is not even an absolute monarchy, it's a constitutional one. But Thailand has still given so much power to this man, and the people cannot even question this. If they do, they get decades in jail. It shows that Thailand's system is broken and it needs a royal overhaul. Have you ever looked at an ad of an Indian coaching center? It usually has mugshots of students. Beside their unhappy faces are their ranks, the scores they got in competitive exams. And have you noticed something strange there? Often the first-ranked student is the same in every ad of different institutes claiming credit for the student's score. How is that even possible? Did they attend 3 classes at the same time, or are the ads a lie? In a lot of cases, they are a lie and an exaggeration to show that these institutes are the best and to lure more students and parents. Because this is a big business. Tuitions in India are not just extra classes, they are a way of life. Back in the day, they were optional. Today, you cannot do without them. In 2021, 40% of Indian children opted for tuitions, and the number rises significantly in high school. 83% of high school students in India go to tuition outside school. And there are different kinds. Group tuitions, where one teacher sits with a bunch of students. Private tuitions, where the teacher comes to your house to teach one-on-one. Of course, it's more expensive. And then there are coaching centers like Byju's, Allen, Resonance, big brands charging big money to teach. And they're quite popular. They've captured India's middle class. But why are we talking about them tonight? Because the government is. The government has come up with new rules for coaching centers. They cannot enroll students below the age of 16, only high school students now. They cannot put out misleading advertisements, so no promising good marks or assured placements. They cannot hold classes for more than 5 hours a day, so students get some time to relax. And if a student leaves midway, they should be refunded. The full fees won't be lost. All of these sound reasonable, welcome moves. And they bring us to 3 main questions. 1, how big is India's coaching industry? 2, why do Indian children prefer coaching over school? And 3, why is the government regulating all of this now? First, let's look at the market size. It's massive and growing. Coaching in India is worth 58,000 crore rupees. By 2028, it will be 1,33,000 crores. The sector grows by almost 15% every year, and much of it is unregulated. Private tuitions and group classes at home cannot be regulated beyond a point, but the big coaching centers can be. The ones training you for competitive exams, IIT, JEE, NEET, UPSC and the like. They charge an average of 1.5 to 3 lakhs per student per year. The more personalized it gets, the costlier it is. And this is how it goes. You're bundled in a class with a group of people. You have classes from morning to evening. They give you study material. They give you mock tests. Every week you're evaluated. If you do badly, it's a disaster because the scores are sent to your parents, who are most likely paying through their nose. So can you imagine the pressure? Education is a prized commodity in India. It's still aspirational, almost like a currency. It determines your future. Most Indians tend to invest in education over healthcare. So they choose these coaching centers, and a lot of them really cannot afford it. They take loans to pay the fees for coaching, which means the stress on the student only multiplies, and the competition is very, very tough. Most of them don't even make it. You may have heard of Kota, a city in the state of Rajasthan. It's India's coaching capital. Every year, 300,000 students flock to Kota. 3 lakh students, some of them become doctors and engineers. Most of them do not, because millions are competing for a few seats. Take NEET, for example. It's the entrance exam to medical colleges. In 2023, over 2 million students appeared for NEET. 2 million students. Do you know how many seats were there? Only 140,000, which means only 7% made it. The rest will have to try again or give up. In some cases, they end up giving up on life too. Last year, 27 students died by suicide in Kota. They could not take the pressure. So the government is basically trying to regulate this whole business of coaching. It may be a step in the right direction, but it doesn't address the fundamental problem. Why do students need coaching? Why is school education not enough? The answer lies in our population. India has more than 260 million school-going children, but just 1.4 million schools. Clearly, the resources do not match the demand. There aren't enough teachers or classrooms or funds, and there's rampant corruption. All of it leaves us with an education system that is insufficient. For example, 50% of children in class 5 in rural schools cannot read or write in class 5. They cannot read or write. So clearly, the education system is not good enough. And if you want to make something of yourself, you'll have to look for alternatives, in this case, tuitions. So while regulating the coaching industry is fine, the government needs to look at schools. The national education policy was a starter, but more will have to be done. As the need for education increases, infrastructure and facilities have to keep up, because education may be a ticket to a better life, but it cannot come at the cost of financial ruin and lives. Our next story is from Papua New Guinea. It's a Pacific island nation home to about 13 million people, and those people have been under a state of emergency for a week now. Riots broke out across the country last Wednesday. The spark was an apparent accounting error. Police and civil servants received an unexpected salary cut, and they abandoned their posts in protest. This led to widespread violence and looting. At least 22 people have died and many have lost their livelihoods. The government is scrambling. They've announced a major cabinet reshuffle to try to show that they're holding people accountable. But will it be enough to quell public anger? Here's our report.
The Pacific island nation of Papua New Guinea is slowly recovering. Last week, it was torn apart in riots. The capital, Port Moresby, was the worst hit. But other cities saw deadly clashes as well. The trigger was apparently an administrative glitch. A payroll system allegedly malfunctioned, and people received lower than usual salaries, lower by about 300 kina. That's Papua New Guinea's currency. It means people received about 80 USD less than they were due. The government claims this was an error, and people will receive the missing amounts in the next salary cycle. But the people affected didn't believe them. They thought it was a secret new tax that the government had imposed. The victims of the glitch were police officers and civil servants, and they decided to walk away from their posts in protest. That's what triggered the riots. When the police walked off, some people decided to take advantage. They stormed stores and houses and proceeded to loot and burn everything they could get their hands on. The damage has amounted to at least $160 million. It'll take years to fix.
In 48 years of independence, I can't recall in my lifetime seeing this level of devastation in a single day event. It's just senseless, it's unacceptable, and we just need to have a really good hard look at ourselves and challenge to how we got to this place and what we're doing to make sure we come out of it pretty quickly.
There's an uneasy calm in Papua New Guinea now. The government declared a 14-day emergency last Thursday. The army was called in. They are patrolling the streets of Port Moresby and other major cities. But the chaos seems to have moved from the streets to the government offices. Prime Minister James Marape seems to be scrambling. He has been blamed for failing to control the situation. On Wednesday, he announced a relief package for businesses affected by the violence.
This all in all, over 300 million kina we have in this budget to assist commerce and business and enterprise in our country. So Cabinet at the very earliest, when we convene next week, will package an assistance package for those taxpayers who lost businesses. Simply put, they expect the state to protect their businesses.
The assistance package is for about half the total damage estimate. It may not reach everyone. So to calm tempers further, the Prime Minister announced a cabinet reshuffle yesterday. He has taken on the responsibility of Treasurer to demonstrate that the payroll glitch was punished, and the department is now in his direct control. He also brought in a new agriculture minister Foreign Affairs Minister, and he has created new ministries as well, like a new Petroleum Ministry and Data Keeping Ministry. Part of this is to show people that there is some accountability. The other reason is politics. The Prime Minister heads a coalition. He risks being deposed by a no-confidence motion. So he has shared ministries with his coalition partners to shore up their allegiance. This may help keep the PM in power, but it won't undo the damage of the past few days. Papua New Guinea isn't out of the woods yet. It'll take a long time for the island nation to recover from the riots.
For our last story tonight, let's go back to the year 1985. A young Japanese woman, Mitsuko Totori, joined her country's national carrier, Japan Airlines. She began her career as a 20-year-old flight attendant. 4 months later, the airline suffered its deadliest disaster. Its plane crashed into a mountain. More than 500 people were killed. The crash and its aftermath left an indelible mark on Japan, the airlines, and Totori. Japan Airlines has come a long way since. 1985 shaped its safety culture. It is regularly named as one of the world's safest airlines, but this month it saw another incident, another accident. Its airplane crashed with the Coast Guard's much smaller plane. Both aircraft were engulfed in flames. 5 people lost their lives. The incident was shocking and questions were raised. Now, Japan Airlines has taken a big step. It has rejigged the top brass. And guess who is now in charge? A 59-year-old Mitsuko Totori, the same flight attendant who joined the company some 4 decades ago. Back then, she was part of the cabin crew, but she worked her way up, held many frontline roles before becoming the director of cabin crew in 2015, and today she is the top boss. This is a big deal for a number of reasons. For starters, Totori is the first woman president of Japan Airlines. This is a rare appointment for the national carrier or any major Japanese firm for that matter. This country has a vast gender gap at work. Women hold about 13% of management positions in Japan, the lowest among members of the OECD. OECD is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. It's a club of rich, developed countries mostly. It has 38 member countries. And Japan has the worst gender gap. It has a terrible gender pay gap too, meaning the difference in pay for men and women for the same work. In Japan, it is almost double the average of OECD. And the worst among the group of 7 nations, the G7, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, and the United States. So Japan is facing increasing pressure to boost gender diversity at work. Businesses have been urged to appoint at least 1 woman as an executive by 2025. Special focus is on major businesses. The government wants 1/3 of their leadership positions to be held by women by 2030, which is a big ask, especially as the government already had the same goal. They were supposed to do this by 2020, and they failed. But as they say, every drop counts, and Japan needs all of them. Totori knows this. The symbolism of becoming a major company's first female leader is not lost on her. She has promised to serve as a role model.
There are female employees who are struggling with their career or going through life events. I hope I can give them the courage or push them to take the next step.
But it's not just Japan that needs this, it is the world. Only a few major airlines the world over have women in senior leadership positions. Sure, there has been progress. According to 2022 data, of the top 100 airlines, 12 had women heads. That is up from 6 a year earlier, so progress, yes. But the examples are few and far between. 12 out of 100 is pathetic. So Totori's appointment is an anomaly. We say congratulations to her. She has already won. But if you ask her, the game has just begun. A big task lies ahead of Mitsuko Totori. After the January accident, the airline is facing its biggest PR crisis in decades. During the 1985 accident, Totori was green. She saw the toll that a lapse in safety takes. And she says the trauma has stayed with her. But now she has climbed up the ranks. And how? Today, she is the one in charge. Her mission is to not let history repeat itself. If Totori is successful, she will indeed be a role model in more ways than one. And now it's time for Vantage Shots, images that tell the story. In the United States, mist from a waterfall has created a winter wonderland. In New York, rare Winston Churchill memorabilia, including his desk and paintings, are up for sale. And in India's Jaipur, a leopard entered a hotel room, leaving the staff in shock. Finally, we're taking you back in history. On this day in 1966, Indira Gandhi became the Prime Minister of India. She was in power for almost 16 years. Gandhi was in her fourth term when she was assassinated in 1984. She was the country's first and only female Prime Minister. We're leaving you on that note. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend.
हाथ में थोड़ा प्रूफ रखना हाथ निकाल के